Welcome in to the Quest for 9 podcast. My name is Seth Warner, and on this podcast, we talk about Kentucky basketball from a fan's perspective. And on this episode, we're going to be breaking down Selection Sunday and the brackets that came out, just kind of some of the matchups that I thought were interesting, giving you about 4 or 5 interesting matchups, Cinderella teams that could make a run. I'll look at what Kentucky could be potentially looking at with their matchup versus Santa Clara and what could come from that and what Kentucky needs to do going forward to potentially give themselves a chance on a run and what some of the matchups could look like for the Cats going forward. And like I said, the Cats are going to be playing Santa Clara in the first round. Coming out of the WCC, for the people who don't know, played Gonzaga close, also beat St. Mary's one time. So it's a very talented Santa Clara team who has some guys that could be potential NBA players and high major guys that are guys that could enter the portal coming up in this upcoming transfer portal cycle in this Santa Clara team who has produced a lot of potential NBA players. Kentucky still has a big size advantage with Santa Clara only having one guy that's over 7 feet tall, or that is a real center for Santa Clara after their 7-footer Bucky Obui, the sophomore 7 foot, only 220 pounds, only averages 8 points, 4 rebounds. Doesn't lead the team in rebounds, but is still a really good shot blocker, averaging 1.2 blocks per game. Other than him, they get a lot significantly smaller. They go down to more like 6'9" range and lose some of that vertical athleticism that he brings to this team. A very dangerous, like I've said, Santa Clara team who is very aggressive on the offensive glass. Their guards are super aggressive with some big guards. With Christian Hammond, another guy you'll hear a lot of, sophomore 6'4" guard, averaging almost 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists a game on almost 48, 39 splits. So a really good shooter. This is a really good 3-point shooting team in Santa Clara who is shooting around 35% from 3 as a team with multiple guys over 40%. So still a really good 3-point shooting team in Santa Clara who really has been good this year. Like I said, in the West Coast Conference, finishing third. The West Coast Conference, one of the first times they've had 3 teams in the big dance. And with Santa Clara, they also play a lot of guys. They have 8 guys who play at least 12 minutes or more, playing that rotation. The bottom guy plays 12 minutes, so it's still pretty consistent all the way out. For this Santa Clara team, Alan Graves is a guy that has some NBA upside and has been put as a guy that could transfer after the season, but Kentucky has to worry about playing him coming up on Friday. But the freshman of the year in the WCC, averaging almost 12 points, 7 rebounds, almost 2 assists, shooting almost 42% from 3, 51% from the field, and has been one of the better players on the Santa Clara team as a Swiss Army knife for them, doing a lot of different things. And then their second leading scorer on this team is 6'7" guard Alia Mahi, averaging almost 14 points, almost 5 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. Is the second leading scorer on this team. Probably he is the more downhill threat on this team. Only shoot about 34% from 3 comparative to the other 40% 3-point shooters, and doesn't shoot a high volume of them either. From 3 is more of a downhill driver, not a high-level playmaker, but is more that secondary guard, big wing that this Santa Clara team has with size-wise. him playing more the 3 guard for this Santa Clara team. Another guy that's heavy in the rotation is Ashish Gaviv. He's averaging 8.8 points per game, almost 2 assists a game, almost 2 rebounds and 2 assists a game, shooting about 36% from 3. So really the Santa Clara team doesn't have a whole lot of guys that can't shoot it. One of is a top 20 offensive rebounding team in the country, elite offensively, but is going to try to disrupt the rhythm and create easy opportunities with their press. They're a heavy press team. But when you think press and mid-major, you probably think more like buckyball, Texas A&M. This isn't that. This is more, we're trying to make it so your primary ball handler doesn't get the ball in bounds and brings it up the floor. They're going to try to make Otega Owe and some of these other guys bring the ball up the floor, try to handle it, and try to make decisions with the ball in their hands instead of a guy like Denzel Aberdeen. Also for the Cats, it's going to be very important. Like we said, the turnovers. I heard one stat that Kentucky, I think, was somewhere around 4-6 when they have more than 12 turnovers. So that's not good for the Cats, ending their season at 21-13. That just shows you the difference when the Cats take care of the ball and take advantage of their possessions. It's really important for them going into this big-time game in the NCAA tournament. Getting more back into the bracket, Kentucky is the 7th seed. This is a 7-10 matchup. Those are always high upset potential. Like we said, this is a very tough Santa Clara 26-8. Did lose to Gonzaga both times, but kept it semi-competitive for most of those games. And Kentucky is the 7th seed. That means they're right next to the 2 seed in their bracket. Their 2 seed is Iowa State. Iowa State's going to be playing Tennessee State. This is going to be a tightly contested game for Kentucky. That's going to be a 12-15 tip-off on Friday for the Cats. We'll see if Kentucky can take advantage of their mismatches and just kind of talk about what Kentucky could see, and then I'll talk about kind of my predictions now for the Cats. Iowa State, a team that's another heavy pressure team, going to be doubling the ball a lot on ball screens. What I've seen is there's a lot of the really good teams reject those ball screens. So if we can get Otega, Denzel Aberdeen, and some of these other guards getting downhill with their dominant hand to be able to reject these ball screens is going to be very important. Also, Iowa State is a heavy help team, kind of similar to Tennessee. They're going to be ready to help. They're going to be ready to tag hard and try to make you pass the ball over the top or pass the ball back and forth instead of getting downhill and getting paint touches. If you can get paint touches on this Iowa State team, you're going to put yourself in a really good position to take advantage of their heavy help and their heavy pressure, burning that off. This Iowa State team has lost some games this year. While they were a top team in the beginning of the year, they fell off just a little bit, losing some games. To Arizona State or Arizona, they lost at the end of the year. They lost to Arizona both times they played them. But that's just a juggernaut. They lost to BYU. They lost to TCU. That was a 62-55 game. Also, their offense. They have 2 big wings who really do a lot for them. Forward, Mali Mativic, one of the best three-point shooters in the country, shooting 51% from 3 on the year, almost 53% last year. at 6'8", averaging 17 points, 3 rebounds. Not a passer, averaging less than an assist a game. Joku Jefferson, he's averaging almost 17 points, seven rebounds, and almost 5 assists. He's more that point forward, nowhere near the shooter the other guy was, averaging about 35% from three, but is a playmaker, downhill creator that really becomes the engine of this Iowa State team. Tin Lipsey's another guy that's heavy in their rotation. He plays about 31 minutes. So you have 30, 31, 31. When it comes to minute distribution, this team's somewhat top heavy. Only 3 guys average double figures for Iowa State. Next guys goes from like 13 to 8 points, so it's about a 5-point drop off. We'll see how they do. They play at 2:50 on Friday. They play Tennessee State. I'll be interested to see if they can keep on track and just keep on playing well as they did in the Big 12 tournament. And we'll dive more into that game if Kentucky and Iowa State end up meeting in a round of 32. But kind of more moving on to the bracket itself, giving just some of my thoughts in some games. I kind of picked upsets. A team I'm really high on that Kentucky's played is Missouri. They are a 10 seed. They're in the 7-10 game with Miami. I'm a big fan of that win. I know this is a really good Miami team, but I think Missouri is kind of a mid-major with D1 athleticism, with their coach mixing up defenses, showing some different defenses, slow the pace down, making you play in the half court. I think that really could give this Missouri team a capable chance of making it to the round of 32, Sweet 16, making deep run as a 10 seed. Where we disrupt the rhythm of the other team, allowing them to capitalize on their mistakes and making the mistakes even bigger than what they are if this Missouri team doesn't hurt themselves and takes care of business like they need to. Another one that I thought was interesting for kind of an upset watch was UCF over UCLA. This UCF team's really good. UCLA is coming off some good showings in the Big Ten tournament. But I still like this UCF team that has beaten some big-time names and has done some really strong showings in conference play. Another team that I really like that some people have as getting upset is Wisconsin. In their first round matchup is a very popular upset in that 5-12 against High Point. I just think this Wisconsin team, with their high-powered offense, could overcome a lot of High Point's athleticism and just be able to kind of turn into that juggernaut we've seen that can take down big-time teams in the regular season. I also like them to move on from the round of 32. No matter who they play, Arkansas or Hawaii, I like them to move on to the Sweet 16. And in another game, another team I really like and another game I really like is this UCF over Florida. This is a talented UCF team that's coming off a big-time conference tournament, another 6-11 matchup, who has really had a dominant performance this year, winning their conference tournament, going 15-3 in conference, being able to win their conference tournament by 15 and really being able to take care of Wichita State, who is not the Wichita State of old, but is still a solid mid-major team. And this South Florida team averages almost 90 points per game, is a red-hot team with a very physical front court who has some legit size that could hurt a not super physical and not super big team in Louisville. With 6'10" forward Izzy Nelson, he's averaging almost 16 and 10 a game, who could be a big problem for this Louisville team as they look to have Pat Kelsey's first win of the Pat Kelsey era in the NCAA tournament. St. John's is another team I think is a little underseeded. It's a team that I think is underseeded, getting a 5 seed, having some big-time wins. I could have saw them more on the 4 or even the 3 line. But here they are. They kind of prepared them to potentially have a face-off versus Kansas in the round of 32. But St. John's is a team that I could very much see making a pretty deep run and taking a legit shot at a Sweet 16 Elite 8 range team. And some people believe them as a potential Final Four team. UConn is a team that I could see losing in their round of 32 game or even their round of 64, coming off some rough performances in the Big East tournament. They've been kind of inconsistent this year. It'll be interesting to see which UConn team shows up. A team that I could see upsetting if they get out of their first round game is Ohio State. It's a very talented Ohio State team who has had some big-time wins this season, only losing to Michigan by 4, beating Iowa, beating Purdue at home, beating Indiana, who did not end up making the field, beating Wisconsin, and being just really competitive with all the big-time names that they have played, and potentially playing a injured and banged-up Duke team who right now is without their starting point guard and potentially their starting center. We'll see how this bracket ends up folding out for the Cats and all these other teams. For Kentucky and their potential path, I have them falling in the Elite 8 to Michigan in a game where Michigan's size, length, similar to their issues they had with Florida, overcome them and are just not able to overcome all those obstacles. And that's all from the Quest Number 9 podcast. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. And you can go find me at Quest Number 9 on Instagram and Twitter to stay up to date when I post new episodes. I put it on there. And let's get ready for Friday and go Cats.